What's going on, YouTube? Jeff Coga here, and I decided that the function is now available for me to go live on YouTube. So I'm going to talk about the real estate market update. Is it the LA housing market update? Is it a boom or is it a bust? I've been talking about this, and first off, if you're searching this on YouTube, if it's a boom or a bust, it probably means a couple of things. Number one, you're looking to buy a house. Number two, or you're trying to make a decision if it's a good decision to buy a house, and or you're simply searching to validate your opinion of if you think that it is a boom, like a over priced market, and or you're hoping for a Armageddon with a big old crash. Now, regardless of what camp that you're on, okay, here's the truth about this, right? Is that as an investor, okay, and I've been investing in real estate since 2004. I bought my house when I was 19, and I was very naive when the real estate market skyrocketed in 2004 to 2007, only to come only for the real estate market to come crashing down. And I literally lost everything, and I lived out of this particular car as I was rebuilding it back up. Okay, now here's the number one thing, okay, is that no one really knows. So you sitting on YouTube to try to search this, you should be probably searching for other things, like if you were to buy now, like your principal residence in Los Angeles, okay, then what should your exit plan should be? Okay, like in my case, I own a house. My wife bought one in 2012, which was at the bottom of the market. So we have equity and things like that, and it's really good. And for anyone that bought during that time, they're doing really well, right? So, but if you're right now, you're on the border because you're just like, wow, it cost a lot. Some areas have hit 2007 prices, but also at the same time, my mortgage payment doesn't cover the rent, right? Now, there is a shortage of inventory. That is for sure. Absolutely, there is a shortage of inventory. I'll say it again, shortage of inventory. All right, now what that really means is this, is that home prices, I firmly believe that we still have 18 to 24 months, all right? And this is not my opinion. It's more of an opinion that was created based on talking to people that were a lot smarter than I am, all right? Now, here's the thing about forecasting and guessing what the market will do, okay? It's just mental masturbation. It doesn't do anything. A real estate agent will tell you that, hey, it's a great time to buy, because you have never found a real estate agent who will tell you it's not a bad time to buy, right? So if you ask them and you're trying to buy a house or investment property, they're going to tell you that all day long, okay? But a real investor, and if you think about this, where financially you get educated on how to make money out of thin air, right, by your intellectual capital, then you'll start understanding that there are other opportunities of you to be able to take advantage of. Like, for example, November 16th, I'm flying out to Texas, in this case, Houston. You might be wondering, why am I going out to Houston? Is because Harvey literally devastated the whole community. So a lot of my friends out there are starting to buy a lot more properties because homes have been devastated, like literally wiped out, and they're buying properties, fixing them up, and then they're renting them out. Okay, and if you do that, you can buy stuff at under $50,000, put in $35,000, and then from there, it's worth maybe $125, $150, depending on what pocket it is, and it can rent out for $1,000 a month, right? So it's a pretty cool deal that you can do. Versus if you're in Los Angeles, the medium home prices, you'll get a crap shack for like freaking $500,000, right? So so you want to start thinking about that if you're looking about. But if you are gonna buy, okay, my recommendation, I tell people, if you are gonna buy, okay, because some of my friends ask me, say, hey, should I buy? I recommend buy a new construction home. Buy a new construction home, all right? Now, why is that? Is because at least in the sake of maintenance, right, of the house, it's not gonna fall apart in the next 5 years, to at least hopefully the next 10 years, if you get it from a reputable builder, right? Like KB Homes, that kind of stuff, okay? But if you get it from a somewhere else, then yeah, it could fall apart, right? So get a brand new home, and then plus you got home warranty, right? So at least something falls apart, at least you can have your home warranty, get it fixed up, that kind of stuff. And then it's a lot easier, ladies and gentlemen, to do that, okay? Now, if you do buy a new construction home, I also tell my friends that are like millennials, have money and sitting around, right? I tell them that have an exit plan ready. if you want to cash out, right? Like if you're going to stay there for the next 10 years, then with all means, real estate is always good, right? Like, I'll say that, right? Okay. It's good. Okay. It's always good. Okay. But if you want to cash out and get like a flux of cash coming in, then at least psychologically prepare yourself to do the stuff in your house so that way you can go ahead and sell it 2 years later. Right? So you're not getting hit by capital gains taxes. That's number one. And then when you sell it, if the market does tank, you can roll in that equity into a new house, all right, without paying any taxes, okay? And if the market does go up, with all means, then you can still sell it and then move somewhere else as well. Okay, so you have options at that time. But again, you know, the question is, if you're thinking about, is the housing going to be a boom or is it going to be a bust? I tell the story about Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett didn't come out and say that the real estate market is overpriced until, I want to say late 2006, okay? Late 2006. All right. Now, currently, right now, Warren Buffett is investing in certain hedge funds like REITs. Currently, right now, heavily invested in them. So again, real estate still have legs. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. And another thing is, a side note, is about interest rates. Right, interest rates. The old cliche saying in real estate, and you hear this a lot with salespeople that are going to sell you a new loan and or try to tell you to buy a house and or an investment property. I'm sorry, to have you sell the house if you're a homeowner, is they'll say, hey, as interest rates goes up, property value does what? Right? As interest rates goes up, property value does what? Goes down. And it's a saying that's said over and over, but truth is, if you look at the historical data on does that interest rate correlate, the answer is no, it really doesn't. There is no correlation, true correlation between it. There are certain there's certain times in history was, as interest rate went up, real estate prices went up, and not only that, but it skyrocketed. Okay, it skyrocketed. But you got to understand the mentality of a salesperson, like a real estate agent or someone that's going to do a loan, is they're going to push you to, guess what? Sell a house, buy a house, get a loan. Right? Because they're in the commission business. So you can't knock them for that hustle, but you as the individual has to be educated, and not only that, but take advice from people that are not financially tied in with the decisions that you make of that home purchase or home sale or whatever it is, okay? And I say that over and over again with so many people until hopefully people start understanding that, right? So again, think about it in the terms of the 1970s, okay, late 70s. Interest rates started going up, and then real estate started skyrocketing. And when interest rates goes up, usually there's about an 18 to 24 months period where prices skyrocket. Why? Is because the salespeople are going to use the pitch line and the pitch of saying, hey, interest rates are going up, you're going to get priced out, you need to buy now. And then not only that, but they say, well, I'm going to have to pay more. They'll say, well, you can deduct more off your taxes, which is a true statement if you're in the United States. That doesn't actually hold true in Canada, but you know, they're going to use that line, and you're going to hear that over and over. So, and then the FOMO kicks in, right? Which is a fear of missing out. So a lot of these people that have been waiting for this magical crash or whatever, and then suddenly as interest goes up, if the property real estate prices starts going up, like it did even in 2005, okay? If you look at 2005, interest rate, tail end of it, starts going up. 2006 starts going up, and real estate market, boom, went up, right? It went up. Now the environment is a lot different. Okay, it is a lot different. We don't have the option arm loans and stuff like that currently right now. You know, those teaser rate loans and stuff like that. So the environment is a little bit different, okay? But no one really knows. So all you can do if you're thinking about buying, you're thinking about selling, is to understand, hey, your current circumstances, where you're at financially, and to try to figure out what is the best decision for you, right? There is no one size fits all of what people like to claim when it comes to like buying or selling real estate, right? Because I can argue either direction. Like, for example, if you look at the history of Japan's real estate market, right? In the 1980s, in Japan's real estate, I'm Japanese, and my family are in real estate in Japan, and they made tons and tons of money during the 80s and the early 90s, right? So the real estate market skyrocketed. It was the most expensive real estate in the actual world at that time, especially Tokyo. And then the real estate market crashed, right? right? They call it the bubble in Japan burst, and they went into something called the lost decade. And if you Google lost decade, you'll learn a lot about the lost decade. But in true reality, it was a deflationary era where asset classes from the stock market and real estate market tanked across the board, and then they stayed depressed for over almost 2 decades. Finally, like the Nikkei or whatever, the stock market in Japan surpassed the all-time highs of last time. Okay, just recently. I think it happened this past Friday. Okay, and they're currently right now in election as Abe, the new prime minister, is trying to get reelected again, right? So point of all of this is history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it tends to rhyme. So all you have to do is pay attention to that history and then make a financial decision. Like, for example, some of the older people, right? Like if you're in California, like I've told this to people that are like near retirement, that I say, hey, it may make sense for you to sell now and cash out. And not only cash out, but also at the same time, maybe you should sell your house and then go buy a new construction home. And not only a new construction home, but get a single-story new construction home. Now, why do I say that? If it's a principal resident, is because number one, as you get older, right, you may not want to walk up the stairs because your health is deteriorating. Make sense? So I tell people to say, hey, buy a single-family home, right? And then make sure that it's a new construction home, so at least you don't have to worry about the roof going bad. You don't have to worry about foundation going bad, repainting it or upkeep or housekeep or anything like that, right? You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, right? And not only that, but if you're a lot older and you've owned a property for a long time, in California, there's something called Prop 13, where property taxes are artificially, suppressed because of what people in Sacramento have done. So people who've bought homes in the 70s or something like that, right? And they've lived there for a long time. Guess what? Their property taxes are like only a couple $100. Because they can only increase it, capped off at the max increase of 1%. Versus like Texas or whatever, property taxes are a lot higher, and as the value goes up, you get reassessed, and then it goes up as the property value goes up, right? And your property taxes goes up, right? So that's a scenario there. Now, if you are a Gen X and you own some rental properties and stuff like that, right? I tell people all the time, I said, hey, understand where you're currently at. Like if you inherited a property and, right now you have depreciation recapture tax, right? For a single family residence, 29.5 years, right? Where you're going to get hit with the, 28.5 is, depreciation recapture tax. Instead of holding on to it because your parents hold it, they pass it on to you, and you haven't paid you've been depreciating the asset, and then you got the depreciation recapture tax that you're going to get hit with. It may make sense for you to sell and then do a 1031 exchange and roll it over into a different property, right? So you're not paying taxes, right? Or go into a commercial building, whatever it is, right? So you got to know your current circumstances, right? If you are a young millennial and then you make good money and you have some money saved away, does it make sense to buy? It all depends. Do you plan to stay with that corporation for the next decade? If not, then maybe it makes sense to get rental properties instead. So instead of trying to search for, is Los Angeles in a housing bubble or a housing bust? Okay, is it overpriced or whatever? You should search for strategies to be able to capitalize on, regardless if the market goes up or regardless if the market goes down or regardless if the market stays flat, using something like real estate. And that's what I continuously tell individuals that are interested in real estate, because right now, especially like the last, I kid you not, last 12 months to 18 months, I hear more talks about people wanting to invest in quote-unquote real estate, and they hit me up, like some of my high school buddies, right? They know I bought a house in 2004, and we used to like party in the house before I would flip it and sell it, right? So then sometimes they would hit me up and be like, Jeff, should I invest? Should I not? I got a little money, what should I do, right? They'll ask me stuff like that, and I'm just like, hey man, educate yourself first, right? So number one, you don't get taken advantage of by professional biases, okay? Like professional bias, meaning that you're turning to, these so-called experts like real estate agents, when in truth, the real estate agents, okay, if you don't know this, all right, and if you don't know this, the median income for real estate agents is $45,000 across the nation. $45,000. Do you really want to take advice from that kind of person on saying, hey, should I invest in real estate or buy a house? And then most of them, they don't even own a house themselves, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Not to say they're not good people, okay? I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to shit on them and say that they're terrible people. The point is, I'm just pointing out the facts, right? Pointing out the facts, it's just so. So again, pay attention to that, because look, you have two things. Because bottom line, if you're interested in is it a boom or is it a bust, it usually boils down to, as I said when I started this video, is that simply you just, you're like screaming and yelling like, oh my God, we're gonna say 2008 and 2009, 2010, I'm gonna buy houses then, and then you might be priced out. But in reality, the core thing that you're talking about here is you're trying to find out a way to make money. Let's be honest, right? Let's be brutally honest. The reason why you would search on YouTube on saying, hey, is LA housing overpriced or is it a boomer? You're just asking the simple question, how the fuck do I make money? Right? And if that's the question, you got to educate yourself, because look, real estate isn't the only asset class that you can make money on. Look, think about this, okay? The equities market is an all-time high too. And I've been saying this too, right? So if one is going to correct, which one do you think is going to correct much faster? The equities market and or the stock market? I mean, sorry, the stock market, when I say equities market, is the stock market or the real estate market, right? Real estate doesn't simply like, boom, like lose a value in 20% in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month. It just simply doesn't happen like that. Okay, unless we have like a black swan event where we go to war with North Korea or something like that, right? Or nuclear holocaust or something like that. And if that happens, shit, man, like we're worried about something else other than should I invest in real estate? Trust me, okay? So the real question is, if you're searching, hey, is Los Angeles housing, are we gonna have a boom or are we gonna have a bust? You're just really asking the question, hey, you know what? Am I gonna make money off this actual purchase? Because look, if you're thinking about buying a house, it boils down to utility of the house, ladies and gentlemen, right? Like first you have to say, okay, house is simply a shelter, right? Somewhere to lay your head. Right? A house that you buy and you live in for principal residence is simply a shelter. And if you can have a honest conversation and say, hey, the utility of a house is a shelter, then the next question that typically the mind will go ahead and process is they'll say, okay, well, is it a good investment? Because we're taught that the American dream is to buy a house and it appreciates and you make money. Okay, nothing wrong with that. So again, if you're sitting on some cash and you got to think about it, you got to be like, okay, where can I put some money? Right? Because if the equities market crashes, and then let's just say we have a 20% decline, like this called Black Monday, if you guys know what that means, okay? In 1977, we saw a 20+% decline in the stock market, right? So if we saw that, then maybe it makes sense for you to take some of your cash that you got, throw it into there, and then wait until that 20% is made, and then from there to take that money out, and then boom, go buy real estate at that time. Okay, same thing like the dot-com bubble bust, right? The story is that when the dot-com bubble, right, went up in the late 90s and then the early 2000s, then we had all that Enron crisis or whatever, then boom, the market crashed, right? All the institutional money took it out of the stock market and then they started placing in real estate. Now, will that happen? Maybe. Maybe. Okay, that may happen in the real estate market. That may happen in the real estate market, right? Because right now, trading on, like I'm trading in the stock market, right? The volume is super, super low, right? Meaning like a lot of the institutional money, I don't think that they're actively trading. So I think it's the biggest trap that they're setting for individual investors, right? That they're buying on this, making them feel good and stuff like that on what's happening. And I think that we're going to see a decline in there, right? So again, I have some money in the stock, but like half of it is in cash right now currently. So if it does decline, I have the ability to, guess what, buy stocks at a cheap price. Okay, and then as I said earlier, simultaneously I'm going out to Texas and flying out to Houston to look at investment properties as well. So that's what I got for you guys on this message. I'm going to be doing a lot more live stream on YouTube. I've been doing this a lot more on Instagram and then Facebook on my Facebook page, but I'm going to do more on YouTube because I like the platform a lot better, and I think that there's a lot more organic reach, and I think we get more I just like YouTube. I started in YouTube, so if you look at like my channel, you'll see a bunch of real estate stuff I did since like 2004, 2008. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I was kind of like rambling and stuff, but hopefully you got some value out of it. And if you did, let me know if there's some serious questions. I can give you some more of the data stuff, but again, as I'm driving here, I'm going off data, off memory. So you know, maybe I'll do a particular one where I explain more of the thought process and, you know, things that you should read about when it comes to investing in real estate. Because look, a house as utility is simply a place to sleep and lay your head. All right, and if you can actually think of it in terms of that way, you'll be a lot more logical versus being emotional. Right? There's a saying in real estate where the public doesn't know, but in the sales environment for real estate is what? Sellers sell on logic, buyers buy on emotion. Sellers sell on logic, buyers buy on emotion. Now, why do we say that? It's because it's so true. Buyers do buy on emotion, right? That's what you hook them with, right? You show them and be like, hey, this is where you can have your family. This is the school your kids can go to. This is where you can cook, right? You talk to the wife and you can cook for the family, have your plate, right? You get them emotionally hooked on that house, and once they're hooked, that idea and then the fixation gets grasped and it holds them, and then guess what? They're going to usually buy the house, right? And then sellers, you know, typically a lot more logical because they've already lived in it, and they have to be really strategic on how they're going to move people, because moving is a pain in the butt, right? For anyone that has ever moved. So the amount of money that they get out of it has to logically make sense for them to say, okay, where am I going to go? Okay, so that's what I got for y'all. Hope you got value. This is Jeff Coga. I'm signing out. Take care. Love y'all. Bye-bye. And make sure you hit the subscribe button.